Alright friends, so before we begin this video, I just want to say I apologize for this video that I recently made, or is it this video? I'm sorry, here, this is the right side. This video that I recently made, where basically I said that the Celestial, or not the Celestial trials, the Valeria trials are extremely impossible, difficult, and I made a hyperbole that said 99% of the people wouldn't be able to solve this or to finish this trial, and then a lot of you gave me some team suggestions and stuff like that. I want to apologize for spreading that misinformation, basically. I don't like that, a lot of people were able to actually solve it, or a lot of people were able to actually get, Ace++, and I feel really bad that I spread out that misinformation about saying that this is really impossible and that 99% of people wouldn't be able to do it. But I do stand by the fact that this trial is needlessly difficult, that there are too many constraints on the boss, and the fact that so far from what I've seen, I've been testing it since like last night, and I haven't been able to get this EX++ because a lot of it revolves around getting some perfect RNG. You need R6 Everett, you need maybe R4 Salvia, I think one of my comment sections said, and a lot of other people that were able to get it got it because these the trial strength, the bonus allowed them to get it, right? So if they did not have that bonus, it would be really difficult to get EX++. I thank you guys for giving me all the suggestions, but personally, I still haven't been able to get it, so maybe I'm the problem, I'm the problem, it's me. Yeah, I apologize for spreading that misinformation, that it was impossible, because clearly other people were able to do it, but I do think that this is needlessly difficult because this is a trial for, new players. That new players should be able to finish this, basically, in my opinion. New players should be able to do this relatively easily. Not like new players that haven't invested in the game, but like if people have finished Chrono 16, they should be able to finish this, right? That's how it should be in my brain, right? They've invested enough time into this, they should be able to finish it. But this thing is just so damn difficult, and I don't see any reason why it should be difficult. I made the video because they should never release this boss as an actual boss content. So I apologize again, and with that said, let's get into the video. The Celestial Anomaly. So what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to be giving you guys the sort of the best team comps, like the best team comps that people have tested, that that can get you these EX++ scores for each of the phases, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Now there is just around a week left before phase 3 ends and the Celestial Anomaly Season 0 ends completely. So I want to give you guys these teams. That way you can get the scoreboards, you can get the rewards for each of this. By the way, you still can claim these old rewards, right? You won't get any of the group event stuff, whatever, but you can still get these EX++ rewards for phase 1 and phase 2, even though they have ended, and also for phase 3. And hey, maybe, just maybe, you guys can get some top group rankings or whatever, and maybe even place in the world rankings, who knows, right? These people are freaking awesome. So yeah, I just want to give you guys these team comps, and yeah. Let's just get into the video. Let's get some Celestial Anomaly done. Yo, okay, so post-editing Grappa here, and I got a new haircut and everything. Anyway, I just want to say that these team comps are just helping you guys get EX++. They aren't the only team comps. They are definitely not like full leaderboard team comps. Like, these are just giving you guys the ideas, and you guys can spitball off of them, right? So, and what I've noticed is that like a lot of these comps, their theme is the sustained team comp. But GGEZ actually showcased right over here, I don't know, wherever. He showcased that basically there's like an alternate strategy, which is just you don't actually want to live the whole 120 turns. Instead, when the boss is weakened, you can actually aim to just do as much damage as possible while they're in their weakened state, and then just get a high score that way instead of actually living the whole way. So these are not like these team comps that I'm about to showcase are not like leaderboard team comps. These are not going to get you like top 1, beat like Bravel and Lisette or whatever their names are. These are just to help anyone who doesn't or who aren't interested in this team in Celestial Anomaly to get EX++. That is all this is. I am not making a claim that you can beat the whole game with these team comps. I'm really not doing that. So yeah, I just wanted to add this before we move on. Thank you very much. So let us begin with phase 1. Now basically, in phase 1, the whole gimmick is you want to apply these Imprisoner stacks. And so each hit will apply 1 stack of blockade, and then the goal is to get to 100. And then each Imprisoner will deal an extra further stack of blockade. So if, like, for example, Sienna hit, she would apply 2 stacks of blockade, but if like a random Esper, like, like let's say Gaius or something, he would only do 1 stack of blockade per hit. So multi-hits are the name of the game basically, and you know, the advanced strategy further helps that. And at the later advanced strategy, the most important one is the healing one, which basically every time the boss is already locked down, when they're locked down, by the way, they can't take the turns, so it's important to have these 100 stacks as much as possible. And when they're in this lockdown mode, basically, when you do, like, I think, is it 5 hits, I believe? Is it 5 hits? When you do multiple hits, you automatically get healed, which is why you don't need to run a healer for the most part. So yeah, every 10 hits the target takes while locked on is effect, you'll heal a lot basically and get some shields. So the idea for phase 1 is I'm gonna give you guys the essential espers. I'm gonna give you guys, okay, so here's a breakdown. I'm gonna give you the idea of the boss, the essential espers, and the swap outs, the ins and outs of the different units, right? So in my opinion, or not in my opinion, but from a lot of testing, these are the essential espers. And the reason being is that, you know how every hit will apply 1 stack of these lockdowns? I apologize for the rain, by the way, but I can't do anything about it. So, you know how every hit applies these lockdown portions on the boss? Well, Mateo's Spark actually counts as a hit. So, when you hit Mateo's Spark, he will do extra damage, and that damage counts as an Imprisoner stack. So, Mateo is a must-have for this boss because his Spark counts as, like, every hit also applies another extra 2 hits basically, with how his stacks work. So you want Mateo, you definitely want Mateo because of his speed lead and because of the Spark, and aside from that, you just want a ton of multi-hits because more multi-hits will trigger more Spark, and more Sparks will trigger more Imprisoner stacks, and obviously multi-hits are already good because of the Imprisoner stacks. So Mateo is a must, and then after that, the twins are also a must because on average they do like a ton of hits, right? So this like attacks one enemy 3 times, and then the follower, the white twin will also follow up, and then vice versa, and then their second skills hit like 4 times. Basically, the twins hit a ton for their they do a ton of damage, and then they also hit a ton, which means it applies a ton of stacks as well. So these are the necessary espers if you want to climb really high or get EX++. These are the sort of like most used espers. Like, it's hard to replace them, they're irreplaceable almost. So you can function without them, but if you want to get like a really good score, these are the best espers for you. And now moving on to what are the last 2 slots. So depending on what your needs are, if you're lacking in survivability maybe, or you're dying too often, then you should try something like this. Elaine and Ahmed are really good. Elaine has like these 5 multi-hits, like the attack downs as well, and then another 5 hits, which is also really nice. And then Ahmed provides the survivability. You don't necessarily need the survivability, but if you don't have that last node unlocked, then you do need a healer, and Ahmed is the best healer for that. So your other options aside from those 2 are Unas or KFC. So if you have Unas is good because he does provide that AP push for your team, which means you can get a ton of turns. And then the other alternate option is KFC because she does a ton of damage, by the way. She does a ton of damage, and she also applies that mini plus 15%. It's not as good as Unas, but since she does a multi-hits on all of her skills instead of Unas, who does just multi-hit on his first skill, she's also really good. Plus she grants herself AP as well, so if you put her like on a counter set, or if she gets her turns, she basically gets a lot of turns, which is also really nice. Now ideally for phase 1, if you want to get like the best highest score, this is going to be your best bet. The reason being is that even though you don't need a healer, Ahmed does provide the supporting song and provides that extra speed at R2. So the base attack is really nice. It functions as like an attack up that's almost there throughout the whole game, and the speed is really nice. If you don't have the speed, then you can remove Ahmed for someone else. You can put him in for Elaine or maybe Unas because they provide tons of the Imprisoner stacks, and the Imprisoner stacks are the most important thing over, like, say, another damage dealer. KFC is almost a must as well, but if you're lacking in the survivability, you can push her for someone else. And by the way, these teams stay for phase 2 and phase 3 for the most part. So yeah, these are going to be your phase 2 and phase 3 teams as well. So yeah, KFC and Ahmed if you have him at R2. If you don't have him at R2, then you can swap in either Unas, I think is the next best one for the AP push, over Elaine. Elaine is decent, but she has these S1 that don't do a ton of like multi-hits, which is why she's less preferred. But if you just want full survivability, then it is Elaine and Ahmed, I believe. So yeah, it's gonna be Ahmed and KFC. That is your best bet. If you don't have these units, like if you don't have Mateo, you can swap in like something like this, just so that you can get those tons of multi-hits and trigger the Imprisoner blockade thing more often. That is your goal. Okay guys, post-editing Grapha again, and I'm just gonna say this, that like I failed to consider that, you know, budget options. So if you obviously don't have those units, then you can sub in some other units and try to get the EX++ anyway. So Ptah is a really good one. Tang Yun on an ocean waves is really good. That way he can constantly get these multi-hits of his instead of using his S1. So those are all pretty good options. You just want lots of multi-hits, right? So you can even use like someone like who's not an Imprisoner, like for example Lu Yi is pretty good. I see Lu Yi floating around a lot because he does a ton of damage. So yeah, these are not like the only team comps, right? I'm just giving you guys the best team comps that can get to EX++ again. So if you don't have these units and you're looking for budget options, try and make budget options. They'll be fine. I'm gonna be post-editing Grapha, covering a lot to give you guys more budget options. But yeah, Tang Yun, Ptah, all really good. You just want tons of multi-hits. So yeah, Lu Yi, pretty good. Chloe maybe against this boss. Yeah, Chloe is not actually that bad of an idea. Meredith was also really nice. I tried Meredith, but as a solo healer, she's pretty bad. And if you run two healers, you're kind of running out of damage, which is kind of a waste. So maybe not Meredith, especially because she has 2 skills where she doesn't hit at all. So Meredith's probably not that good. Xiao Yin can probably function. I just realized my air conditioning is on. I apologize. I usually turn it off when it's video time. But yeah, so just budget options for you. I'm going to be coming back. I'll see you guys. So moving on to phase 2. Now in phase 2, you have to, you know, balance out having both on a team 1 and a team 2. But for team 2, so you know now how to build team 1. But when it comes to team 2, what is the name of the game? The name of the game is basically multi-hits. AoE damage. AoE damage is the name of the game. And the boss has these adds and these additional units, these 4 additional units that you really want to kill often. So you want to do a ton of damage, but you want to do AoE damage as often as possible. So often AoE damage is what is important here. So with that said, what are the necessary espers and what are like the optional espers, right? So the necessary espers are this, right? So you want your Yunchuan and you want your Gabrielle. If you have your Yunchuan R2, that is like the most important thing. Now, why is that the case? The reason being is that Yunchuan has his AoE speed up and speed down and speed up, which is very unique to Yunchuan, I think, because he's the only one who can provide speed up for your team as a DPS unit. But the other thing that's really important is the fact that at R2, he will follow up, right? Anyone who attacks into his third eye seal. I'm sorry about that, if you guys heard that. But anyone who attacks into his third eye seal will do damage. And so over time, since he has his third eye seal on the boss, any AoE damage will deal a ton, and basically Yunchuan will always be proccing, and that is really important for getting tons of damage later on. The next one is Gabrielle. Now the reason why Gabrielle is really important is because of her powerful AoE damage on both her S2 and her S3, but it's also the defense down and the utility that she just brings overall. She's really good, and you know, if you have her at R6, she just does a ton of damage and speed scaling. Speed scaling is really important because a lot of the nodes for all the bosses will give you some level of speed scaling, and so the fact that Gabrielle already incentivizes you to build her with speed scaling along with the advanced strategy speed scaling is just really important, right? So you want AoE damage as much as possible. So when it comes to like the final 3 espers, there's like a ton of variants here. Obviously if you have like, you know, R6 Zora, if you have Shen Pin, then those are the ideal, and I think those are the best espers probably for it. It's gonna be Shen Pin, which I don't have, and Zora at higher resonances, which I also don't have. But this last slot is actually very much up for debate. So honestly, yeah, AoE damage is just the name of the game. So you can put in Camille. Camille is really good, especially if you have Red R6, because she will take multiple turns, apply the Sear and Bleed, and then apply just more bleeds and stacks like that. That's all really good. Ashley is also pretty decent, but she kind of sucks because she's stuck on this S1 for a really long time. So she may not be ideal, but the fact that she does bring up the attack up for your team is good. The Rainbow Bridge is also pretty nice. So she's also pretty good. Yuhime is another one. I personally use Yuhime because I don't have a ton of other options, and she is really broken because if you run her on the Astralis set, Azora also applies for this, the Astralis set. She will do AoE damage every time she does the Astralis proc, which is good because, yeah, AoE damage is the name of the game, so Zora and Yuhime on the Astralis is really, really nice. Another one is going to be Javid. Javid at higher resonances has also seen some play because the Judgment Seal is just nice, especially if you have him skilled up and then you run him on Ocean Waves. He can have this Judgment Seal up pretty often and it will do a ton of AoE damage, which is nice. He also does decent AoE damage here and inflicts the Seer, so he is also really good. Jiangman is actually also another good option. She's a bit less preferred because after she uses this AoE nuke, she's kind of stuck on this kind of lackluster S1, but the Nether Bloom makes up for it in terms of the damage, and because at R6 she has this guaranteed counterattack, she also counterattacks pretty often, which is why she's also really, really nice. I've also seen some people use Lin Xiao, but Lin Xiao is not preferred because she just uses this one AoE damage and then after that she's kind of not that good anymore. But if you don't have other options, Lin Xiao is also really nice. Some other options in terms of the AoE damage here, I'm going to check through them. R2 Embla was also really good, but you want to use R2 Embla for your phase 3 team as much as possible. So R2 Embla is also a choice here, especially if you're just trying to get the rewards for phase 2. Then R2 Embla is also a pretty good option for you guys. Someone else that is preferred is Falcon. Yeah, Falcon's another really, really good option because of the Eye of Horus. And by the way, you need at least someone who can bleed or Eye of Horus like Falcon, because the interaction with Yun Chuan is when the third Eye Seal goes away during the enemy's turn, they will start taking like they will take the bleed damage, which is on their turn, the bleed damage or the Eye of Horus damage. And because that counts as damage, it will still proc Yun Chuan to follow up, which means he will just have perpetual third Eye Seal, which is good, especially if you have him at R2. It's vital, it's important. So Falcon provides the speed down and the attack down, which is nice. It provides the Eye of Horus, and which will give back the damage, which is nice. And then upon counterattack, sometimes he will counterattack with his Falconer, which means sometimes he will just fully AoE damage counterattack, which is all really nice. So Falcon is a very good budget option if you don't have like Shenpin or something. Oh, and another option that's really, really broken right now is actually Alolan. Alolan is actually like a very sleeper pick, because if you build him like kind of slow, just like maybe like plus 60 or something like that, the thing is that this Plague Famine, if an enemy makes their allies bleed end early, all of Alolan's ability cooldown -1. So what happens is you will kill the ad will die, the bleed will go away, and that will trigger Plague Famine. And so basically every time Alolan takes a turn, he will always be using this S3, which is good because this thing hits pretty decently. And if you can always use AoE damage and, you know, not have to transition to like using your S1s that are pretty lackluster, and you can always do AoE damage, that is really, really good. So Alolan is actually a very nice sleeper pick right now. And I see some people prefer him over someone like Yuhime or something, for example, like that, because he does do more damage. I believe this his S3 has more multipliers, I believe. So yeah, Alolan is a very good option and very budget option, and everyone just got him because of the championship event. So yeah. So I think the best comp is gonna be like Zora and Shenpin, and then maybe Alolan or Camille or something like that. It's hard to say who is the best like third option, but it's definitely like Zora at higher resonances and then Shenpin. But I don't have them, so I have to do with what I got. So yeah, those are the phase 2 teams. And I'm going to drink a bottle of water. I'm gonna drink some water and, you know, stay hydrated. Finally, we go into the phase 3 teams. So this is the team that I've been using in phase 2. Now for the phase 3 teams, this is actually the most difficult boss in my opinion, because it's hard to fully understand all the complexities to the boss, right? But something that's really going to be really important here is how the advanced strategy works. So for the previous bosses, it's basically simple, right? You do a ton of multi-hits, you'll get healed. You do a ton of judgment and you kill the things often, you'll get healed. But the difference for the Sunken Viper is it's not that simple. So the final node of the advanced strategy, and the reason why the bosses, a lot of teams are built a certain way, is because of this title shield. And basically, grants a target title shield when healing. Shield strength is 40%, blah 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 blah. Esperos with shield gain more damage. So basically the idea is anytime you get healed, you will gain additional healing effects. And you might say, why can't I just do one giant heal? But actually it's more important to have lots of tiny heals because that will trigger the shield more and it will give you more of this upkeep effect. Basically, healing is really good because the healing gets reduced. So you want tons of sources of healing. That way you can trigger that more often. So what does that mean? It means that because a lot of the things are built around that healing, you're going to see some very interesting combos here. So basically, for what the Tide Colors do, anytime they get a turn, they will gain the Tidal Force stack, and then when they attack, they will do the Tide node. So why is this important? The reason why this is important is you can't use assists because they will not gain the Tidal Force stacks. You really want your units to get a turn and then attack. And these Tidal Forces do stack, so if you get a turn and then for whatever reason don't attack, like you don't use them up, then you can use them up later on. But basically, you cannot use assists here. You do not want to take a ton of turns as well, because the boss actually hits you back when you attack, right? So when hit, damage taken minus 5,000, and this is mitigated by the Tidal Force, which is why you want to attack. You want to take a turn and attack. But another thing is true damage to the attacker. It deals true damage to the attacker. The true damage is equal to 70% attack. Basically, every time you hit the boss, they will hurt you back. So you kind of want to mitigate the amount of turns. You don't want to assist. Assists are really bad here for the most part because your assists don't apply the Tidal Force stack, and then you also get hurt back, right? So there's a lot of nuances to this, but basically you don't want to take your turns too often. You want tons of healing. You don't want to have any assists. So that is pretty much it. Now, when we go into the boss, these are going to be, in my opinion, the essential espers. Okay, so there are kind of like 2 ways of building or 3 ways of building it. So this is one of the ways, one of the essential ways. So you want your Sander and basically all of your DPS, right? All of your DPS for this content, you want them on the Nether set. And the reason being is that final node that I showcased previously, which is every time you heal, you will gain a shield. And that also triggers with the Nether set. So every time you heal with this lifesteal, you'll also get additional shield. So every DPS you want them to have the shield. Now Sander is a really good one because I believe, is he a judge? Yeah, he is a Tide Color unit. And then he applies the speed down on the boss, which is good. He does some decent damage, some single target damage, which is really good. All of his stuff is nice. And yeah, the captain ability is also really good. So Sander is like the pick right now. I think everyone's using him over like an attack lead. So yeah, Sander. The next one is going to be this support duo. So what we learned is that every time a unit takes a turn, they will gain Tidal Force, which is actually really good for Sienna because she will attack, apply the Tidal Force, and then when she does this buff, which is a good buff, attack up and speed up for 3 turns, she will get a Tidal Force stack but not actually consume it. So when she goes around to attacking with her S1, she will apply 2 of the Tidal Force stacks, which is like you're getting extra value because she is taking this turn. And another reason is that like you kind of don't want to take a ton of turns because every time you attack, right, you will get hit back, and survivability is kind of a problem. So stalling for turns with Sienna is actually really good, which is why Sienna is like kind of a must pick right now. The next one is going to be Asenath. Now Asenath is going to be good because if you have her at R6, you will know that her Lotus Marks will, damage taken minus 50%, that's just at base. But at R6, when triggered, heals 15% of max HP. So This is good because, you know, Lotus Mark damage taken is minus 50%. That's some damage reduction. That's good. The Lotus Mark will push AP, which is good. Healing is good. And then on her second skill, she will heal as well, which is good because it applies the shield again. But the team will also gain recovery. And that recovery is also good because it triggers another layer of healing. So Astronaut has a ton of AoE healing that will trigger all of the shields, and all of that is really good. And because she takes her turns often, she will actually be stealing the turns so that your team has more survivability, right? You don't want your DPS to attack too often, because if they're attacking too often, they will die a lot sooner. Later on, when the boss has like tons of power boost, your DPS actually die really easily. So your Astronaut actually taking the turn and, like, you know, kind of wasting a few turns from the boss is all really, really good. And lastly, for the final DPS, in terms of like the Tide Callers, who do you want? So if you have them, these are gonna be your ideal Espers. Now, Embla is good because she has the defense down and the Corrupted Seed just does a ton of damage. So she is good, and she's good single target damage. She just does a ton of damage. Embla's just there for damage. I'm saying damage a lot, but yeah, Embla's good. She's good. Yes. Now, Brewster. Brewster is actually a very interesting pick, and I honestly didn't understand at first, because why would you want him to attack with the reload? The assists are bad because he will take damage, right? That's bad, and the assists don't have the Tide Caller node stuff, so it's just damage mitigated, and then he's just gonna take damage. So all that's really bad, right? Well, actually no, because when he attacks, the next attack restores Brewster's HP. So he will restore HP, gain an additional shield, and when he is on the Nether set, he will also, you know, get lifesteal, and then he will gain the shield again. So Brewster's assist damage is actually okay because he has tons of layers of healing for him, so it's kind of mitigated. And another thing is that he has some very consistent defense down, which is good so that you can do more damage to the boss. And yeah, this crit rate up to all allies is also really nice because you can build your team such that, you know, they have less crit rate. That way you can apply the crit rate up to everyone and get more value that way. So Brewster's actually really, really good. Now, for some other team comps that you can do, I have seen some people, you know, only use like 2 DPS and then will try to put in the Anki Chai. That way, Anki Chai is also a Tide Caller, which is good. He takes turns often because he pushes his own AP, which is nice. And when he buffs himself, he doesn't take the damage, and so he will stack up those Tide Caller stacks. That way, when he attacks, he can apply 2 at once, which is good value because you want to apply as many stacks without actually taking a turn. So that is good. And then the cooldown reduction attack up is all really, really nice. So Anki Chai is a good option. If you do have Clara at high resonances, I believe it's R4. At R4, she is good because her R4 gives extra defense to allies that do have a shield, and from the advanced strategy, they will all gain a ton of shields. So Clara at R4 at higher is also really, really good. I think she might be better than Astronaut at R6, but I just assume that you have Astronaut at R6 or at a higher resonances much easier than you do Clara. I'm pretty sure Astronaut is accessible to most people anyway, so Astronaut is good because you can buy it from the Divine Sequencer shop. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend other units. Jin Yao is pretty useless. Ollie is like okay, but I wouldn't recommend it because the max HP scaling isn't that good because this boss doesn't have a 100%, he just has like infinite HP. So it doesn't actually work that way. If he had 100% HP, I think Ollie would do a lot better, but he doesn't, so yeah. And then you're stuck on this lackluster skill, so it's not that good, I don't think. So some other units that you can do is, I have seen some people use Abigail, and the reason being is that, like, if you have Abigail, right? If you have Abigail, what will happen is, because they have the Absorb, that is another layer of healing, and because that's another layer of healing, that's also more shields, which is why Abigail is pretty decent. And because she doesn't attack all that often, like this is a buff skill, this is a buff skill, the Tide node stacks actually stack up, so Abigail herself doesn't take damage that often. Although that's not the problem, Abigail's not going to be the one to die first. This defense up is also really nice. It's a shield based on the max HP and the target loss, so that's also good. And she has the revive, so that there's that extra layer of like, oh, if your team dies, then she can just revive them. So Abigail's also a pretty decent option. I also tried Leora for a bit because Leora does good single target damage. She has the invincibility and the crit rate down, which I think is good. But at the end of the day, I don't think she's that useful because she's not a Tide unit stack, and I think that you just prefer the Tide Caller units as much as possible. But those are just like, you know, spitballing some ideas if you don't have them on lock there. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it. You know, I think that he might be good because he also does heal himself and he does do some damage, but he minuses his own HP, which is probably a bad idea. Oh, Koharu is also a pretty decent option because she does attack down and defense down, and then she applies this unique buff, and she does heal everyone, and she does kind of do some damage if you build her on max HP scaling. So Koharu is another good option there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. These are not like a complete comprehensive list, but these are just some ideas for you guys because yeah, Chimera can get pretty crazy. So with that said, I am going to, you know, maybe run this and then leave this in the background for you guys, just so that you guys can see. I'm gonna show you guys my sets. So some attack there, some wind and counter there. Astralis on Ahmed is actually really good. The reason why you want Ahmed is because later on they will die, or the survivability becomes a problem. So Ahmed on the Astralis is actually really nice because he applies more of the stacks. Yeah, Ocean Waves so that they can attack more often. Ocean Waves, I just put it on, but I can probably optimize this. You don't really need recurve. So yeah, just some damage there. Astralis on Yuehime is really, really important. Gabrielle on Ocean Waves is another really important one so that she can have these buffs as often as possible. Falcon, yeah, Falcon on just that, yep. Alolan, pretty slow Alolan, because you want him to always take an S3 every time he takes a turn. So you want him to be built a bit slow. That way, when he does take his turn, it's gonna be an S3 guaranteed. So yeah, Nether set, just, you know, Nether set again. Nether set again. I think that these two DPS could be a bit faster. And then lastly, it's going to be Asenath, wherever the heck she is. Asenath, you want to put on Ocean Waves and Grove. And then you want to put on Ocean Waves and Grove as well. You do not want counterattack sets on these guys because their counterattacks will not be as useful. So yeah, I'm gonna run that. I'm gonna keep that in the background. I'm probably gonna close my face. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys learned something. And again, I am sorry for the misinformation I spread in the previous video. I apologize for that. So yeah, I'm going to run this. I'm going to remove all of that. And thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys learned something. And good luck in the Chimera. It's just a week before it's ending. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And here is the stuff.